Hello friends, good morning. We will continue our discussion on book 1 of Paradise Lost. In the last lecture, I have spoken about the invocation, the prayer made by John Milton in the first 26 lines. After the invocation is over, the next lines, John Milton requests God to tell him the whole story. It is not that he does not know the story himself, but he wants God's grace, he wants God's aid, help in writing this story of the Bible. So he is asking the God himself to tell him the story of the fall of man. So this is the main topic of Paradise Lost, that is the fall of man. The lines go like this. Say first, for heaven hides nothing from thy view, nor the deep tract of hell. Say first, what cause moved our grandparents in that happy state, favored of heaven so highly, to fall off from their Creator and transgress His will for one restraint. Lords of the world besides, who first seduced them to that foul revolt, the infernal serpent, he it was whose guile stirred up with envy and revenge, deceived the mother of mankind. What time his pride had cast him out from heaven with all his host of rebel angels, by whose aid inspiring to set himself in glory above his peers. He trusted to have equalled the Most High if he opposed with ambitious aim against the throne and monarchy of God, raised impious war in heaven and battle proud with vain attempt. So slowly he is coming to the storyline of book 1. After the prayer or invocation is over, he is requesting. This shows the humble nature once again of John Milton. He says, you know everything right from the beginning till the end of the story of humans. So you only guide me in retelling the story of God, of the fall of man to the humankind, to the mankind through this epic Paradise Lost. So line number 34 to line number 53, he gives the brief background story about what happened in heaven, how Satan took his rebel angels with him and fought against God, and it was an impious war. This verily shows the nature of Satan. He is against God, and if God symbolizes good, Satan symbolizes evil. That is why he is not able to tolerate the monarchy of God in heaven. He wanted the powerful position of heaven. That's why these lines 34 to line number 53 describe about the Satan, the character of Satan, and his impious war against God in the heaven. And what happens to them when they fight against God? Him the almighty power hurled headlong, flaming from the ethereal sky, with hideous ruin and combustion, down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire. This is what these people, Satan and his fellow angels, got as punishment for fighting impious war against God. What they were done is they were thrown out of heaven by God and his army. And how they fell in the heaven, and how was the heaven? It is described as the bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire. So hell is exactly the opposite place, unlike heaven. Heaven is full of beautiful things, but hell is full of adamantine chains. Chains are, they are thrown into the hell, and hell is a horrible place with penal fire. There is fire, there are burning lakes in the hell. There will be discussions about hell in the next few lines. Line number 61 to 75, John Milton uses them to describe how is the situation in hell. And later he gives one line here: who dost defy the omnipotent to arms? 9 times the space that measures day and night to mortal men, he with his horrid crew lay vanquished, rolling in the fiery gulf, confounded though immortal. This is what happens to the people who fight against God, and this is what the poet Milton wants to convey, because it is always the goodness that wins the wars, and as a result Satan and his fellow angels, rebel angels, they are called as rebel angels, are hurled, they are thrown out mercilessly out of heaven. Further, I won't be reading all the lines, but there are some wonderful lines in which Milton has tried to describe hell. I will read a few lines from 61 to 75, not all of them, but some of them. The dismal situation, waste and wild, a dungeon horrible. How is the hell? It is a horrible place, not a worthy place to live. It is a horrible place, dungeon, which is full of filth, ugliness, horror. On all sides round, as one great furnace flamed. It was as if it's a big, huge furnace in which everything is flaming, everything is set to flames, everything is burning, and it's extremely hot. People cannot live there. Yet from those flames no light. But how is the flame in hell? If had it been flame in heaven, it would have produced light. But here, hell is a place full of darkness, ignorance. So he wants to symbolize hell with everything that is evil. So even there are fires in the hell, they produce intolerable heat and they produce darkness, which is actually scientifically wrong. If we look at a flame, it always produces light, but if there is a flame in hell, that would produce darkness, which is the symbol of evil. Yet from those flames no light, but rather darkness visible, served only to discover sights of woe, regions of sorrow. He calls hell as, see, there are lots of adjectives that Milton uses to describe hell. It is a dungeon, a very dirty place, a horrible place. Then he calls it a burning furnace. Further, he calls it regions of sorrow. Hell is a region of sorrow. There is no happiness in hell, and that is why these rebel angels were thrown into hell as a kind of punishment. Doleful shades where peace and rest can never dwell, and this is very important description of hell. It is a place where peace and rest, peace of mind, you never find peace of mind in the hell. Always there is turmoil in the minds. That is how is the situation in hell. Hope never comes, that comes to all, but torture without end. It's a place of torture, place of torture, place of endless torture. And this torture is felt by the rebel angels. They find it difficult to overcome the difficulty in the hell. They are thrown into the burning lake. They are bound by chains, adamantine, very strong chains, and they need a lot of struggle and strength to overcome all that trouble in the hell. Those lines are explained later. And it is fiery deluge with ever burning sulfur consumed. So this is a sort of place which is unfit to be a living place. This is a sort of punishment given to Satan and his rebel angels for going against the will of God, or for going to fight against something that was good. So these lines are about the descriptions of hell. We have to appreciate John Milton as a poet with lot of scholarship, because he can imagine. See, nobody has gone and seen how is hell. Even in different mythologies, there are descriptions of hell. Like we have the concept of Swarga and Naraka. In the same way, in every mythology, there are descriptions of hell and heaven, wherein hell is meant for people who commit crimes, and heaven is meant for people who commit who do a lot of good works. He has not gone there to see how is hell, but with lot of beautiful words, he is imagining how is hell. It is full of burning fire, firing lakes, and it is as if the lake of sulfur. Sulfur is acidic, right? And this shows Milton had even a scientific knowledge when he was writing Paradise Lost. In utter darkness, and their portion set as far removed from God and light of heaven. And this is important. Although it was full of these things, it was a dungeon, it was a region of sorrow, but most importantly, it was far away from God, and it was far away from the light. Light here symbolizes goodness. It was a dark place, away from the light of God. This is what he stresses more in the description of hell. Further, the description continues in the further lines till line number 84. There are descriptions of how there were these angels and how is Satan now coming and living in hell. He soon discerns, and interestingly, although Satan is the villain of the epic Paradise Lost, he is introduced as the first character by John Milton. And very importantly, we need to look at the descriptions of Satan and his strength. He is shown almost equal to God in strength, but he has bad nature, bad character, and that is why he cannot be ever equal to God. If we go on looking at the speeches delivered by Satan in the hell, those are so powerful speeches. He is a huge angel, monstrous fallen angel, but his power can never be equal to the power and benevolence of God, because God represents goodness and Satan always represents evil. That is why he can never succeed against God. One next to himself in power and next in crime, long after known in Palestine and named Beelzebub. So the first conversation begins in hell, and that conversation is between Satan and Beelzebub. Beelzebub is his subordinate fallen angel and next to power in hell. after Satan, to whom the arch enemy, and this is a word used for Satan here, he is arch enemy. Satan is called as arch enemy of God. It means the biggest enemy, the most powerful rival of God is Satan. So the next few lines are dedicated to a wonderful and powerful speech of Satan. To some extent, we start looking at Satan as if he is a hero because of his strength, because of his courage, because of his determination to fight war. But even though we feel great about Satan because of his strength, we can never pay respect to this character because he is evil by nature. I will just read a few lines from the speech of Satan. The first speech he delivers in hell, and he intends to provoke all these rebel angels to fight once again with God with this intention. And these kind of speeches in Satan makes in hell show that he is restless. He wants to gain powerful position just like God in heaven, and the speech is motivated by these thoughts. With bold words breaking the horrid silence, thus began. If thou beest he, but oh how fallen, how changed from him who in the happy realms of light, clothed with transcendent brightness, didst outshine myriads thought bright. If he who mutual league, united thoughts and counsels, equal hope and hazard in the glorious enterprise, joined with me once, now misery hath joined. He accepts that he is now in a miserable position. He was living in heaven along with God and his angels, but now he is in hell. He is aware of his miserable situation, not just his miserable situation, but that of his fellow rebel angels as well. He is aware of that. From what height fallen, so much the stronger proved he with his thunder. And he is also aware here, he says that so much the stronger proved he. God proved to be stronger because we lost the war against him. He is much stronger than us. This is how Satan can be called as a good warrior. You see, in war, it is always said you should never underestimate your enemy. In the same way, Satan, although he hates God, although he hates goodness, he does not underestimate the power of God, who is his enemy. He knows, he acknowledges that God is more powerful than him. That is why the war was lost. But he is not happy with the present situation. Though changed, his utmost power, which with adverse power opposed in dubious battle on the plains of heaven, and shook his throne. What thought the field be lost? What though the field be lost? All is not lost. The unconquerable will and study of revenge, immortal hate and courage never to submit or yield. And what is else not to be overcome? These lines make us appreciate the strength of Satan. Satan, although he knows that now he has lost position in the heaven, he has lost the war against God, but he is extremely a determined person, determined character, a determined angel. He says what if I lost one war? Everything is not lost. I can still wage war against God and I can still go on conquering the heaven. So, the next, these lines, line number 105 to 110, these show how Satan is a strong and determined warrior. He is ready to fight again with God. And all is not lost. He says, although we have lost the position in heaven, although now we are in hell, we have still not yet lost, because we can again develop that strong will to win the war against God. The unconquerable will and study of revenge. What is our strength? We can study, we can practice, we can think strongly about taking revenge, and these thoughts are not lost. Even though we have lost the war, even though we have lost the position, these thoughts and our strong will is not lost. That is how Satan becomes the leader of the rebel angels, because of these kind of strong thoughts. Immortal hate. Although I have lost the war against God, my hatred against God will not be lost ever, and courage never to submit or yield. This is very important in the speech of Satan. He is now addressing it to Beelzebub, who is next to him in power. He says, and courage never to submit or yield. I will never submit before God. I will not go and beg for my position, beg for pardon with God. I will fight. I will not submit against God or yield to Him. I will not go begging. So, this is how we see some speciality of Satan. Satan is a man, Satan is an angel who wants power at any cost. He is not ready to yield, he is not ready to go and beg to someone for power. He wants power and he will gain it by any strong means, but he will not go and beg before his enemy. The glory, that glory never shall his wrath or might extort from me. Even though he might have secured his position in heaven once again, but he will never be able to control my thoughts of revenge against him. So we can again fight back. So this is the first kind of a motivating speech he makes in hell. To bow and sue for grace with suppliant me and deify his power, who from the terror of this arm so late doubted his empire, that were low indeed. So, although he knows that God is great, God is good, he is not ready to beg before God. Then, in the last 4 lines of this speech, line number 120 to 124, he makes his intentions very clear now. Why is he delivering such a strong speech? He makes it very clear in line number 120 to 124. Says, we may with more successful hope resolve to wage by force or guile eternal war, irreconcilable to our grand foe, who now triumphs and in the excess of joy, sole reigning holds the tyranny of heaven. We have to appreciate Satan here, because he calls his own enemy as grand foe. Grand enemy. He has that magnanimity to call his enemy as a great enemy. Even though he is enemy, he is great. He is a grand foe. This is how war should happen. The two enemies in the war, two rival parties, should look at each other with a lot of equal strength. In arms, not worse, in foresight much advanced, we may with more successful hope resolve. So he is hoping for success this time. If someone reads Satan's speeches without keeping them in the context of paradise lost, they will really feel motivated in life, because his speeches are like that. His speeches show if we fail in one attempt, we need not lose all the hope. We will try definitely to be successful next time. So it is absolutely a motivating speech. Here it is motivated for a bad thing like fighting against good, but if we remove the context of paradise lost and look at the lines delivered by Satan, we will be really inspired by his speeches. And this is how John Milton has made Satan a strong speaker as well, orator. He is very articulate in expressing his feelings, and he is a really good orator for his rebel angels. So in last four lines of his speech, he makes it clear that he is not satisfied with his position in hell. He wants to go back to heaven and fight against the God. Now this time he is hoping for success, and he says to wage by force or guile eternal war. Now my intention is to wage war against God, either using my army, that is by force, or guile eternal war, or the war in disguise. I may do anything, but I will wage a war against God. He is such a strong, adamant and a determined warrior who is bent upon winning against his enemy by hook or crook. So, who now triumphs and in the excess irreconcilable to our grand foe, who now triumphs and in the excess of joy, soul reigning holds the tyranny of heaven. He calls God as a tyrannical ruler of heaven, and he is jealous. The jealous nature of Satan is also shown in these lines. Jealousy. He is jealous of God because God is ruling such a beautiful place called heaven. This is how he makes his first speech, addressing it to another angel, fallen angel, Beelzebub, who had struggled to get awakened in the burning lake of hell. So spake the apostate angel, though in pain, wanting aloud, but racked with deep despair. And him thus answered soon his bold compeer. Now it was Beelzebub's turn to speak in response to Satan's speech. Look at how Beelzebub is feeling great about Satan. He has a lot of respect for Satan, and he starts his speech thus, addressing it to Satan. O Prince, O Chief of many throned powers, that led the embattled seraphim to war under thy conduct and in dreadful deeds, fearless, endangered heaven's perpetual King. He calls him O Prince, O Chief of many throned powers. So it's very clear that Satan was equally powerful. What does he speak here? In these lines, Beelzebub expresses his wonder because he was also a participant in the war which happened in heaven. He was also a witness to the strength of God. He is expressing wonder about God's strength, and he looks at his fellow angels fallen as if they are dead in the burning lake of hell, and when he looks at them, he is doubtful whether they will be able to fight against God once again or not. So it is like a neutral speech. Beelzebub also knows that God is powerful. Satan also knows this fact. That is why he calls God as grand foe. Now Beelzebub is expressing wonder about God, as well as he is expressing some sort of doubt because his fellow angels had all fallen, like as if they are dead bodies in the burning lake. I will read some important lines from his speech. That with sad overthrow and foul defeat hath lost us heaven, and all this mighty host in horrible destruction laid thus low. As far as gods and heavenly essences can perish, for the mind and spirit remains invincible, and vigor soon returns. Even he is extremely a positive angel, positive in the sense he is also accepting the views of Satan that even though we have lost the war, we can again come back with a renewed strength to fight against that supreme enemy. In the next lines, he praises the enemy thus: but what if our conqueror, whom I now of force believe almighty? The word almighty means that he is all powerful, all the time extremely powerful. And Beelzebub also acknowledges that God is almighty, since no less than such could have overpowered such forces as ours. He believes Satan and his fellow angels were also powerful, and God has defeated these angels. This means that God is really almighty. These are the lines in praise of the enemy by Beelzebub. But he is resolved. Just like Satan, he is also resolved to take revenge against God. By right of war, whatever his business be, here in the heart of hell, to work in fire, or do his errands in the gloomy deep, what can it then avail, though yet we feel strength undiminished, or eternal being to undergo eternal punishment? But when he looks at the other angels who are fallen, he is expressing this sort of a doubt whether they will be able to fight against God once again or not. Whereto, with speedy words, the arch fiend replied. Now, what Satan replies, in what way he further motivates other angels. Now, his duty has begun in hell. He has started motivating the first person he meets in hell after waking up from the burning lake is Beelzebub, and both of them are two very powerful fallen angels. They want to rebuild their empire, but they see that the other angels are still sleeping in a painful state in that burning lake. So, what reply will Satan give to Beelzebub's speech? We will look at in the next class. Thank you so much. So, in today's lecture, we have focused on from line number 34 to line number 155. I strongly recommend that you read the text. It is absolutely easy to understand. Although there are some words related to Christian mythology like cherubs, seraphim and all, but apart from that, the language is absolutely easy because it is written in blank verse, and blank verse is almost a very natural form of speech in English. So, when you read the lines, you will easily understand the whole story of the poem. With these words, I conclude today's lecture for now, and in the next lecture, we will look at the next part and how Satan replies to Beelzebub. Thank you.